and they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win, and if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there. Ludacris going in.
Hello, and welcome to day 3 of Black in Physiology Week. My name is Dexter Lee, and I'm one of the co-founders of Black in Physiology, Inc. And I'm serving as your host for our Wednesday discussion. WINS, W-I-N-S, Day, is about acknowledging and celebrating small victories along our career journey and sustaining a WINS Day mentality. During this year's BIP Week, we are also paying tribute to hip hop's 50th anniversary and how it has shaped our society. Today, we are elated to have the HipHop MD, a social media influencer who has a tremendous following in the areas of STEM, to share his thoughts about what constitutes a WINS Day. Maynard Okereke, better known as the HipHop MD, graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in civil engineering. He is an award-winning science communicator, having received both the Asteroid Award for Best Streaming Content and the People of Change Award for his community outreach efforts. Noticing a lack in minority involvement in the STEM fields, Maynard created the Hip Hop Science Show with the goal of encouraging minorities and youth to pursue more advanced career paths. Maynard looks to continue his work with universities, students, and communities to increase STEM outreach and diversity initiatives to help propel the next generation into the scientific frontier. Without further ado, we are elated this evening to have Maynard to come and talk with us about creating and fostering WINS Days. This is truly a WINS Day for Black in Physiology. Okay, let's jump right in it. What are wins that we should consistently recognize in the STEM fields?
Yeah, that's a great question. I first a little bit want to touch on just a win in general, right? It's kind of what a win is, because I think there's a fun theme already, right? We're talking about WINS Day. And I think we're all thriving for wins as scientists in whatever space that we're in. But a lot of times we think win as a huge victory. And I think it's important to remind ourselves that even our pathway to becoming scientists, doing the work that we're doing in whatever STEM field that you're in, didn't happen overnight, right? You didn't just instantly, boom, I got my degree, I'm here in the field, I'm thriving, I'm successful, I'm making good money, I'm changing the world, whatever it is that you're doing. It was a journey getting to wherever we're at. And a lot of times once we get into the field, we overlook, or we sometimes even just kind of forget the pathway and all the ups and downs and all the different deviations that we went through to get to where we're at, to our ultimate win, right? Where we're either able to support our families, support ourselves, having the career success that we've always thrived for. So I think that aspect is really key to remember when we're thinking about what to celebrate, because along the way, there's so many different nuances and so many different things that changed and so many different things that we celebrate. It could have been achieving a test. It could have been, you know, finally getting to your math goals, right? Having hated math for the longest time and you finally overcame that class. Or it could be even just knowing what specific field you want to navigate. You may have known that you always wanted to get into a STEM field, and that field that you're going after seemed like it was miles and miles away. And you may have navigated into something else and found some happiness in an entirely different area of STEM. And all those different things are all successes, and those are all milestones that we are achieving along our pathway towards true success and what we define as success. And I think it's also important to remember, we always think about success, right, as a linear pathway. We're grinding, we're making our way up. But we all know success is filled with ups and downs, and that pathway towards success can be very, very high peaks, and it can be the lowest of lows. And I've navigated that myself in my career, of having ultimate highs and points where I was like, oh yes, I'm thriving, I'm winning right now. And you just think that that's going to be linear and you're just going to continue excelling. And then sometimes, boom, reality hits and you're back down at square one or below where you even started in some cases, right? And so I think it's important to understand those two aspects when we think about what are wins, when we talk about whether it's physiology or any other STEM fields, is understanding that pathway, understanding that journey, and knowing that getting to those victory points takes small little baby steps and little milestones, little achievements and accomplishments along the way, that sometimes we have to literally force ourselves to take a step back and just enjoy, just treasure those moments. And sometimes we're so focused on it. And I think a lot of it has to do with us as minorities as well, too. We have so much that's pushed upon us. We have so many different expectations and so many different things that we have to overcome. And a lot of times we forget those little things along the way because we're thinking about this ultimate peak that we have to be at. And so just kind of taking those steps back, forcing ourselves to write those down. That's one thing I'll try to do, is I try to write down my accomplishments on a regular basis. It could be daily, it could be weekly, whether it's on my notepad or whether it's on my calendar, having those little small milestones, because you know that ultimate goal of where you want to get to, but it takes small little steps along the way. And so I think combination of all those, realizing the little small things that we have to do to get to where we ultimately want to get to, recognizing those and appreciating those, and living in the moment sometimes, living in the moment of knowing, yes, I accomplished this. This was huge. Look at me when I was back 5-10 years ago to where I'm at now, and understand that you still have so many different things to accomplish and so many different layers of success to get to. I think all those packaged together are really important to recognize when we think about wins and victories in our career pathways.
This is very good. You know, something that hit me dead between the eyes when you said we think we should be following a linear pattern. And that is true, that, you know, that's the expectation. And oftentimes we are desensitized to small victories or even lessons along the way, right? Because I often hear people say we're not losing, we're learning, right? We're learning, and oftentimes that may not follow a linear pattern. So that's very on point at this point in time.
Yeah. Yes. Mm.
And so to follow up with that question, and I think you just touched on it a little bit, is how do we celebrate all wins and not just the big or worthy wins, one that we considered worthy, right? We often start like, okay, I'm going to run a marathon and I'm only going to be worthy of celebrating when I cross the 26.2 mile marker. But again, how do we celebrate all wins
Yeah.
and not just the big ones or ones that we just take for granted?
That's a great question. I think it ultimately ties back to, and you alluded to this a little bit earlier, when you talked about, when you talked about really learning lessons, right? And I think about that as attributed to failures. And sometimes we put a negative connotation on failures. You didn't achieve something, you didn't achieve your goal, and so you failed. And so now you aren't worthy of whatever you're trying to accomplish, or maybe it wasn't for you, and a lot of people back out. I personally, I never look at anything in my life, anything I've ever done, in whether it's family, whether it's in my pathway towards my career, as a failure, because as you mentioned, everything is a learning lesson. Life is all filled with the learning lessons. And so we put it back to, I always attribute things back to sports, right? I'm a big NFL, NBA sports fan. I used to run track and everything. So you think about it as a marathon, you know, and yes, obviously you enter a marathon, your goal is to finish. Your goal is to finish maybe at a certain time. Maybe you have a PR you're trying to accomplish or whatnot. And you may miss that PR, you may miss that time. Could be by a couple of seconds, could be by 10 minutes. Maybe you get injured along the way. And so sometimes we think, oh, that was a failed mission. But if that's like let's say that was the first marathon you're ever running, think about what it took to even get your body physically ready to run that marathon. You had to go through months and months of, maybe even a year of training, getting your cardio system up, getting your body ready, right? Working out in the gym, doing all these different things, getting yourself mentally ready, because a lot of running in a marathon is mental, right? Understanding all those elements. There's so many different things that you did on a daily basis. Eating right, fasting, doing all these different things to be able to get your body and your mind ready to run that marathon. And yes, you may have not accomplished it at the time that you wanted to. Maybe you got injured on the way, whatever that impeded you from the success that you're hoping to have. But don't think about those wins, those different things that you did, the mental fortitude that you had to have to stay strong and stay diligent in the pursuit of your goal. That kind of harps back to what I mentioned earlier, is thinking about all those little victories along the way, executing those things, because a lot of times there are people that may have a goal that they want to achieve, but they won't do those little small steps along the way. They'll just also ultimately think that that path of that eminent goal is just going to appear overnight, or they're just going to achieve it by luck or by happenstance and not ready to put the work in. I think life is all about what type of work and effort you're going to put in. And so I never look at anything as a failure. Everything is learning lessons. Everything is testing you. Everything is building your mind and building your body up to get to that ultimate level of success. And so when we think about how we celebrate things and make things worthy, I think it's making sure that we acknowledge all those moments, those training days, those days that we had to eat right, those days that I wanted a Cinnabon and I couldn't eat a Cinnabon, right? And I had to eat something healthy. I had to eat a salad instead. Those are small wins, and those are things that we celebrate. Those are the things that we should be marking down on our calendar and saying, I did that, I accomplished that along the ways. Understanding that everything along that path is a victory, is a win in getting to your ultimate goal. And even if you failed, even if you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve at the very end, you did all those little things along the way. And so making sure you recognize those and understand that those aren't failure points. Those aren't things that you didn't do correctly, or that you didn't earn that. You earned it just by putting the work in. And a lot of times we don't think that. And I think that comes back to what we talked about when we think about diversity in STEM and lack of representation, people that look like us in these fields, right? You could if we go through, and we could touch, I'm sure we'll touch on this later in our discussion, but, just Black physiologists in general, the fact that we have this community here to be able to connect with, there are very few of us. So we know that there are very few of us. And so the levels of success and different things that we have to accomplish seem so much more grander, seem so much bigger because of the fact that there are very few of us. And so we feel like everything that we do has to be notable. Everything that we do has to be grand and epic. And if I'm not the best at the best of the best in this particular field or this particular branch of STEM work that I'm doing, then I'm a failure. I'm not succeeding. But you have to realize that just you getting to this position, being in the position that you are right now, to even have that opportunity to be able to impact others, that already is a win. And those are the things that you need to celebrate on a regular basis, for sure.
Well, definitely, definitely. Yeah. And you're right. Black in Physiology is a community of excellence, a supportive platform. And oftentimes, one may not feel supported based upon their surroundings or interactions or lack thereof with people outside of the community. And which brings up another question is how can we help those around us win in the field?
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. I think it comes back to the community aspect, because it is easy to kind of get caught up in your own success and what it is that you're doing. Because of the effort that it takes. It could be the financial effort that you put in to just get to where you're at, and you need to be successful because you put this money in, and now I got to earn this. The guy got to show that this degree is worthy of the time and energy and the money that I put into it. But when we think about building a community, the very first point starts from thinking outside of ourselves. And what my priority as a science communicator in the work that I do in my mission isn't just to spark curiosity and excitement in STEM, but it's also to be able to make an impact and be able to show to others that you have the opportunity to be able to do amazing things as well, and that these opportunities are for you. And I think that comes by being able to foster and develop that community and to be able to celebrate others' victories, highlight what others are doing. And I try to do that a lot in the work that I do. Yes, I feel like I do some pretty cool things in the STEM fields and I have some amazing opportunities that have been afforded to me. But I get the biggest satisfaction by being able to showcase others that look like me that are doing amazing work in this field, who may not have either the spotlight or notoriety or boisterous, loud voice or recognition that I myself may have or that others may have, and being able to bring those people to the spotlight. And that just comes by fostering and nurturing that community of people around you. We can't win on our own, especially in these fields. And that's why we have opportunities like this to be able to connect with others in our community. That's why Black in Physiology is an important week for us to be able to connect, to be able to learn from each other. Yes, we know the ins and outs of things that are happening on a regular basis. And for those that don't know, I'm talking as a person in the STEM field, not as a physiologist myself, but this really pertains to everybody in the STEM fields. We know the ins and outs of the work that we're doing. There's so many different layers of things that we have to do on a regular basis in our fields. But when we're able to nurture that community around us and be able to see what others are doing, the impact that others are making, and be able to now have our forces combined to be able to make a true change, that right there is where we really, really accomplish another level of success. Because yes, it's cool to see one of us winning, but what's even doper than that is to see all of us collectively winning respectively and be able to showcase and highlight and be able to join forces, right? I look at it as the Avengers. You know, we have all these different superheroes in different areas with different skill sets. But in order to really be able to accomplish the grand goal, the grandest of all goals, which is to continue to inspire the next generation, get more people that look like us in these fields, because it doesn't end with us. If it ends with us right now, then the work that we're doing is meaningless. We can have all the success that we want, but if it's not making an impact, if it's not inspiring somebody else, if it's not encouraging somebody else to enter these fields or to overcome what they consider as their failures in life or overcome whatever barriers or obstacles that they're facing, then what we're doing is meaningless. And so I think building that community, getting more of us, more of our voices in the fold, getting more of our voices in the works for us to be able to not only unite together, but collectively showcase to others the opportunities that are available. That right there is how we win together. And winning together is so much more fun at the end of the day than just winning by ourselves.
Excellent, excellent. And so I'm thinking about the hip hop culture, and a slogan that we often use in hip hop culture is "There's room," right? There's room. There's room for everyone. And even in Black in Physiology, we talk about putting people on game, meaning spreading the wealth, spreading the knowledge, spreading tips and ideas and pointers, career advice that we've gained along the way. Because in our society, I think, depending on what angle you take, you may consider everyone is in competition or you should be in a silo. And we all know that networking is very important in any of the STEM fields, especially physiology, and where we're constantly learning from one another.
Yeah, and you know they have the classic saying, your network is your net worth, right? And
yes,
that's because you're the community that's around you. That's what you invest in, and that's what is able to catapult you to new levels of success. Is not just by doing everything individually, but by building up the collective group. And that's so important to have that collective, those collective voices together, supporting each other, because that's the only way we're going to elevate. We're already set back enough, and if we just try to earn those victories on ourselves, it's not enough to get us there. We have to do it all as one, for sure.
Great, great, great. So we've talked about what is a win. We've talked about how to help others to win around us. Now, let's move to the next question, is getting under the hood or in the mentality of a winner. How do you prepare emotionally, mentally, and physically to have a wins day?
That's a great one. It's deep. That's deep. We're getting deep here. I love it. I love it.
All right. Let's put on the scuba gear. Let's go.
Ready and fully certified. I'm certified, so I can do this. Yeah, I think, and this is different for everybody. Is going to be it comes really from really understanding and knowing yourself and what your voice is. And I talk a lot about this in different workshops that I do and different presentations that I do, is honing into your voice, finding what speaks to you and what it is that you want to communicate to your audience and to the people that are around you. And a lot of times we may think like, oh, I'm not trying to be a communicator. I'm not trying to be this. But at the end of the day, regardless of what it is, even if you're not trying to be on social media and be sharing your work to the masses or whatnot, you still have a responsibility, even as an individual in whatever STEM field that you're in, to be able to highlight the importance of the work that you're doing, to showcase why you're doing it, because of where we're at as individuals, as minorities in these fields. We just have a subtle responsibility that we have to have upon the next people. If anybody that's walking by us, seeing us in, whether it could be at a hospital, and that kid that's never seen a Black doctor before and sees you, yeah, you may not be trying to be able to highlight the responsibility of all scientists for the future, but for that individual, you are making an impact. You are making a change. It may be small, it may be minute, but that's still your responsibility. And so I think understanding your voice, understanding the impact and the responsibility that we have, it really starts with that on a daily basis. And I wake up every day, right, excited about science already. I'm a science nerd. That this is what I do. But having my passion for entertainment and pop culture and all these different things that fused my hip hop science platform together, for me, the excitement of being able to share what I find interesting and what I'm inquisitive about, and the things that spark curiosity in me, to be able to have an opportunity to share that with people, that instantly I wake up with that emotional mindset. I wake up with that emotional understanding of, I get to share something cool today with somebody that may never know this, or may have never experienced this, may never knew why this worked the way it did, or what type of impact that this would have. I'm able to change their perspective in a new and innovative way. And so I wake up kind of with that emotional mindset, and that gears me up for everything that I'm going to do, either for that day, for that week, for that month, even for that year. If I'm knowing different things that I want to accomplish, it sets me in that right tone of understanding, like, this is the impact, this is the importance of what I'm doing. I'm big on talking about curiosity. I have this phrase that I utilize in a lot of my presentations: curiosity is nature's PhD. And for me, it really encapsulates everything that my platform has been about in a nutshell. I don't have the expertise in a lot of different areas. My background is in civil environmental engineering. But here I am talking at Black in Physiology Week, right? I don't have an expertise in physiology, but I've done a lot of content around physiology, about how the human body works. Done a lot of different things in biology. I've done a lot of different things in astrophysics and aeronautics. I've done a lot of different things in marine biology, all these different contrasting and very different fields, because I've asked questions, because I've connected with experts, because I've built a community, because I've had the opportunity to get hands-on and experience and go on wildlife expeditions and work with biologists in the field and understand the inner workings of what it takes to be able to accomplish that work. Because I've been curious, because I've asked questions and I've wanted to know more. And curiosity in itself is an emotional mindset. Curiosity is an emotional state, because it's innate in all of us. We're born curious, right? When you're little kids, I have a little 10-month-old, and everything goes in her mouth. Anybody that's parents, everything goes in the mouth instantly. And yes, you want to be able to say, get out, and we got to do that because, we don't want them to get sick, whatnot. But we have an understanding that this is how they learn about how the world works, by testing different things out, putting things in their mouth, eating stuff, whatever it may be. And we have that natural innate curiosity, and that stays with us really through our early youth. And what happens is that over time we get jaded by life and different things around us. We're either told that we can't ask questions, or that, no, this isn't for you, or this is too difficult, you can't do that, or this isn't for you, or there aren't other people that look like you doing this. All these different things are little barriers and little obstacles that debilitate us and break us down over time. And so being able to build ourselves into that emotional mindset of understanding that if I'm able to maintain that curiosity throughout my life, even as adults, as we're talking right now, we should always be curious about new things. We should be curious and excited about the future, new developments in our fields, new developments happening with other people, new advancements, all sorts of different things. These things should intrigue us and excite us and stimulate us. And so I'm always seeking that stimulation, and that stimulation of curiosity is what's enabled me to be able to do a lot of the work that I do now as a science communicator, is because I've had that mindset of focusing in on that and narrowing in and harping in on that emotional mindset that is curiosity, and using that to not only fuel myself, but be able to support the people that are around me, to be able to support the youth that I work with, to be able to support in my discussions about representation and getting more of us into the STEM fields. All of that is an emotional mindset that we have to maintain and that we have to foster along the way, and understanding that responsibility that we have to be able to share the work that we're doing, to be able to support the next generation, while also making sure that we maintain that curiosity. Those are all emotional mindsets that I think are very, very important when we think about how we're going to win and how we're going to encourage others to win as well.
Wow, that's a lot. And you know, if I had a penny every time individuals that look like you and me heard the phrase, "This space is not for you," "Are you sure you're in the right space?"
Mhm.
We could probably start a little company here with a nice
Right.
set of change.
Right.
But you also touched on that even though you may hear those words, or even though you may not see um, maybe an encouraging environment around you or a diverse environment around you, you still must have that curiosity. And
Mhm.
I think we have to work very hard to protect and to
Absolutely.
keep the curiosity, right? Because
Mhm.
another thing that you hit upon is like, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't touch that. That's hot. You can't put that in your mouth. You can't go there, or that has never worked.
Mhm.
And well, maybe the people who have tried it before didn't think about this or that. But
Mhm.
those are very important elements that I think in
Mhm.
being prepared to tackle each and every day as
Yeah,
a Wednesday. So those are
absolutely.
very great, very good,
And the
very
word that
good.
you said there, that was key, because I'm always in touch with how we come about saying things, because words are very important when we think about it, because a lot of times we
Yes.
overlook and we just continue to move forward and we don't think about the words, the impact of the words that we say. But you said something that was important, because I talked about maintaining curiosity and keeping us curious and ways to stay invested in that. You said protect the curiosity, protect that curiosity. And I think that is the appropriate word, because
Mm,
we have to look at curiosity as that thing, right? That orb that needs to be protected by all means necessary. Protection is key, because that curiosity is what's going to fuel us for the rest of our lives. That's what's going to help us navigate whatever area that we're in, whether it's STEM fields or not, whatever you want to be, whatever you want to call yourself, a creative, whatever area that you want to get into. That curiosity is going to be so key. And if we don't do everything that we can to protect that and foster that and help that develop and grow, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. And so we have to really think about it in that mindset of how important that is, what type of tool that is, and because it's we got to go back to Black and it's part of our physiology. That curiosity is part
mm,
of our physiology. It's a vital organ. It's a vital part of our growth and our development. If we don't do everything that we can to protect it by all means, by all costs, then we're setting ourselves up for a route that's not going to be conducive to where we need to be at as a community. So that's important. Protect our curiosity.
excellent, excellent. I couldn't agree with you more. Going back to our initial conversation about this linear progression
Yeah.
and how if we don't feel as if our career path is on a linear progression, we aren't winning, which I think
Mhm.
leads into our next question.
Okay.
When we don't have that linear progression, how important is adaptability in determining wins days?
Yeah. I think in a way, adaptability, we'll put it into our vital organ checklist. I feel like we should be running a list of everything that's vital for our own physiology when it comes to these different
Okay.
terms. But we put curiosity in there and we put adaptability in there as well, because I think about adaptability, put in the same ballpark as evolution, change. It's innate. It's what's going to happen. It's part of our biology. That's how we're going to grow and we're going to develop over time, is being able to adapt. Animals, organisms in the wild do it every single day. If you live in the city, you know that every single animal that lives in that city with you has adapted to be able to nurture and grow and foster in that environment. Because we came in, we built buildings and skyscrapers and roads, and yet you still have insects thriving, still growing. You still have birds building nests on top of skyscrapers. You still have all sorts of different organisms that adapted to their surroundings to be able to still maintain their livelihood and continue to grow and develop. And we're no different. Along that pathway, you may have this vision, you may have this goal of I'm going to be XYZ and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to be able to get to this point. And sometimes we get so tunnel vision that we forget a lot of the different things that are around us, that are surrounding us, that could be just as prosperous or end up leading us to that initial goal that we have, but just not on the pathway that we initially wanted to take. This part is really key to me, and I take this home really deeply because it's really what developed my platform, my hip hop science platform. I didn't set out with the goal of being a science communicator and being able and making educational videos and encouraging our youth to get into the STEM fields. My initial passion was music. Initially, music was my initial passion. I always had a love for nature that was always combined in it as well, but I always wanted to be a music artist. I was writing since I was like in 4th grade, 5th grade, performing at talent shows. Anytime there was a camera on me, a spotlight on me, that's where I thrived. Entertainment was where I wanted to be. Along that pathway, yes, I was always into nature. My original major was going to be wildlife biology because I had a love for nature, I had a love for wildlife. And so many different circumstances along that pathway kind of deviated me from that because I was told that there aren't people that look like you doing that work. You'll never find success in wildlife biology. You need to go where the money's at. You need to do engineering. You need to do computer science. You need to go in the medical fields. That's where the money's at. And that's how I ended up going into engineering because these barriers, these mindsets were put in front of me that I couldn't accomplish that because others hadn't seen people that looked like me doing that work. And yes, I still obviously loved doing engineering. It still fueled my love for STEM and the sciences and how things work and develop. But it was still a deviation from my original pathway of what I wanted to accomplish. And then from there, being able to now work in the field, work as an engineer, be able to utilize everything that I learned in school to be able to work on heavy infrastructure projects and big high profile engineering projects. I still had a love for entertainment and I still had that passion in me. And so doing a 180 and leaving that and moving to Hollywood and pursuing my entertainment goals, that seemed like a deviation. That seemed like another redirection, right? And then full circle by doing my entertainment work and being able to make fun sketch videos and working with comedians and doing all sorts of different acting work still led me back to my STEM fields because I found an opportunity to be able to communicate who I was, to be able to showcase my other side that I had always kind of encapsulated in a box and kind of put to the side because I didn't want to show that I was a nerd to other people. It gave me a platform. It gave me an outlet to be able to show my nerd side to different areas and be able to bring that to the forefront. And that's really how the Hip Hop Science platform came about because I was able to adapt. I was able to navigate different pathways. I didn't have that initial goal of being like, this is the trajectory, this is where I want to accomplish. But I went with what I was passionate about. I went with what drove curiosity in me. I went with what I cared about and went with what spoke to me. And I found a way to be able to still roundabout be able to do all the different things that I wanted, be on stages, performing, talking about science, educating, sparking curiosity and excitement, sharing my excitement with things that I love to different communities. Those all came and all formed from me being able to adapt and being able to be flexible with the different circumstances and different things that shaped and fueled me. There was never any giving up. There was never feeling like, oh, I'm going down the wrong path. This isn't for me. I fully let those just sink in. And it's almost kind of like free flowing water when you're on a stream or if you ever gone canoeing or kayaking and you get in the point where maybe you might fall off the boat or something like that. The last thing you want to do is try to swim uphill or try to swim. Like you go with that flow of the water and you kind of let it guide you slowly towards the edge. That's what they teach you as safety techniques to be able to get out of a heavy flowing water. You go with the flow and you slowly try to navigate yourself to the side. And that's what we have to do in life. We have to kind of go with the flow in a lot of times. And sometimes we think too restrictive where we're like, I'm pushing against everything. I'm pushing against these opportunities or these things that are coming my way. I'm saying no, no, because I'm too tunnel vision. Sometimes saying yes to something might open a door that might give you an easier, quicker route to that point that you wanted to get to, that you didn't even know was possible. And so understanding that you can say yes to different things and accepting that there are going to be different nuances that are going to shape you, and there are multiple different pathways to get to that level of success. There's no one direct route. Understanding that there's so many different layers to that success that you can get to, that part is really important. And so adaptability is absolutely key. We got to protect adaptability as much as we protect our curiosity.
Awesome, awesome. As you painted the picture about the canoeing, I'm thinking about riding the wave, right? And I often tell
Mhm.
my trainees that you learn along the way, life
Mhm.
lessons, career lessons. You learn them along the way, and so in any situation, you could learn something that will help you in the long term.
Yep.
And speaking of trainees, I think that leads into our next question. How can we communicate wins in the field of physiology and recruit the next generation,
Mhm.
especially of unrepresented minorities?
Yeah, yeah. This comes back a little bit to what I touched on a little bit earlier, is understanding our responsibility that we have when we are doing the work that we're doing. Because there's going to be, whether we know it or not, there's going to be someone that comes across your life that's going to be affected by the work that you do. And more often than not, you'll never know. You'll never know somebody that was impacted or somebody whose life you changed. And to me, that's almost the coolest part, right? It's one thing for everybody to come and say, "Oh, you did this for me," you did, and to feel that energy and to be motivated by that. But it's even more energetic. It's even more energizing to know that you are shaping people's lives that you may never even speak to, that you may never even know about. And for me, like doing the work that I'm doing now in science communication, because I get a chance to go to so many different schools, work with underrepresented youth. I work with youth from all sorts of different backgrounds. I work with youth that aren't at all interested in STEM or may think that they're not interested in STEM or that STEM isn't for me, and have a discussion with them about all the opportunities that are available in STEM, about how there's science in everything. That's one of the key things I highlight in a lot of my presentations, to talk about there's science in everything. And that's one of the tools, one of the ways that I educate. And that's really the nutshell of my hip hop science platform, because it's not just about music and science. It's about everything in science, entertainment, pop culture, all these different topics, movies, whatever it is, these different things that we kind of look at as everyday things in life. Everything has an element of science in it. And I always talk to educators about meeting students where they're at, because it's easy for us, because there's so many different obstacles and barriers that are placing us to think that, oh, I'm not smart enough, or I don't see people that look like me doing this work, or you have to be a genius to do these fields. Being able to bring these topics home in a palatable format is so key, and that's the work that I try to do with my hip hop science platform, is being able to make those connections, being able to bridge that gap to where students and even young working professionals and beyond could understand that there's so many different elements of science that shape my life, so many different areas that can impact my future, and that are directly affecting me. And once you're able to make that connection, once kids are able to make that connection, it opens up so many different doors, because you could be watching your favorite movie and watching your Avengers or Disney movie, whatever it is, and you learn something about an understanding of physics or math that you may not have thought about because of this connection that you're able to build through that, and that's reshapes your whole thinking about what science is. And that's one of the things I try to do with hip hop science is, we talk about, this is the 50th anniversary of hip hop, right? And I look at hip hop music in itself as not just music, as something we just listen to and enjoy, but hip hop has developed from the time that it started 50 years ago to now. It's a culture. It's a culture, and it's a
Mhm.
universal culture. It's not just Black culture anymore. Hip hop is a universal global culture. Hip hop has reshaped and redefined marketing. It's reshaped and redefined gender stereotypes. It's reshaped and redefined technology. It's reshaped and defined media. Everything that we consume on a regular basis has all been shaped by hip hop, because it's developed into a culture that has so many different tentacles that touch so many different things, fashion, dance, and beyond. There's so many different layers of it that have affected everything. And so being able to bridge that gap and make those connections to science and know how those different nuances are shaping those is so important for our next generation, for our youth, because we're embracing that culture. That's it's in our blood, it's in our bloodstream. We're in it all day, every day. We live it. It's not an external thing. And so when we're able to showcase that there's scientific elements to all those different things that are already embedded in us, it just shines a light on so many new things. And when I'm able to make that connection and I see a student make that connection to something that they never thought possible, or they're like, oh, dang, I never looked at it like that. Oh, wow, that's fascinating. I can make that connection to an artist that I listen to every day, or I make that connection to a movie that I've watched. That is the most transformative and most eye-opening thing for me as a science communicator and an educator and just a lover of science in general, is be able to see that connection open. And so finding those different things where we can be able to bridge that gap, make those connections, and to be able to showcase and highlight what we are doing as someone that's reached a level of success in the field that we're at, to be able to showcase, hey, I did this. There's a pathway that you can be able to get in this field as well. And this is these are how, or this is how it's going to reshape your trajectory and maybe open up doors for your family, for your own livelihood in so many different ways. Those are the elements that we have to think about when we are looking at supporting the next generation and being able to build that community, is being able to showcase the trajectory that we took to get to where we're at, and now be able to bring that to the masses to help bridge that gap. And then we're able to support the community of others that look like us. Man, that's so profound. And I can already tell that that's something that you love, because you always hark back to who you're working with and students and others that you're supporting and mentoring and giving advice to. That's the part that we should all appreciate. And that's the part that we should all build our own unique connection with, because that's where we see that true success. That's where we're going to eventually get to that ultimate win.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think about reaching people where they are and being able to communicate with them where they are.
Yeah.
I think one of the last questions we'll ask today, and maybe it's shifting a little bit, but what are strategies needed to bounce back from a day that we consider a loss?
Yeah, that's a great one. I guess I wouldn't look at it as a strategy necessarily. It comes back to our mindset, back to that emotional mindset. Because what are we really saying when we say, oh, a day that I didn't have the wins that I wanted? We're looking at that as a failure, right? And we already kind of touched on a little bit about there's no such thing as failure. There's only lessons learned along the way. And so whenever I don't accomplish something, because I'm going to take away the word failure, whenever I don't, whenever my intended trajectory doesn't reach the height that I expected it to reach, there's some things you have to let go. You have to be able to move on from so many different things. And I've gotten to a point now in my career, because initially when I set out building this hip hop science platform, my goal was always I want to bring this to television. I want to be able to, I grew up watching Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson and seeing these prominent scientists being celebrated on such huge platforms. And I was like, if I can be that voice to be able to get a platform like that to where I can be able to impact so many people on a mass scale, like that would be the ultimate achievement with my hip hop science platform. So one of my many goals with the work that I do has been to develop a show. And I'm always big about speaking things into existence. So I always love sharing what I'm after and what I'm trying to accomplish. And I think we should touch on that too. But that is part of our strategies for wins, is communicating what it is that you're trying to achieve, because you never know who's listening and who's out there that could support you in the work that you're doing. But that was always one of my goals, to be able to get on television and be able to have my own show. To me, that would be the epitome of success. And I've gone through so many different development deals and all sorts of different ins and outs and entertainment side that we can talk about on a whole nother separate day, just about all the nuances to get through that. But if I focused on all the no's that were said, if I focused on all the people that doubted and said, nah, someone like you would never have an opportunity to get a show, there's not a need for this, all sorts of different things that have been said along the way. If I kind of focused on those, then I would be back at square one. And so I've gone to a mindset where I let a lot of things go, because I can be so assured about what it is that I want to accomplish. I can be so assured about the impact that the work that I'm doing is going to have, because I know from myself, my own personal experience, the importance of it. And I think we all do too, as in our pathways of getting to where we're at in whatever STEM fields that we're at. As a physiologist, I'm sure you went through so many different trajectories. You went through so many different barriers and obstacles. So you know exactly what it takes to be able to get there. You know exactly the work that needs to be put in. And so when we recognize that element of it, that right there is really transformative as well. And so I think being able to let things go, be able to move on, be able to know, okay, this maybe took me from the direction I initially wanted to go, but now I've been able to redirect. I've been able to adapt. I've been able to now open up a new door. Those are the mindsets that we have to get in order to understand that we are still winning. Even when somebody said no, even when somebody closed the door behind you, you're still winning. You're still winning as long as you still have the energy, as long as you still have the determination, as long as you're still willing to put the work in, you're still winning. And so the only time you stop winning is when you stop doing anything and you give up and you move on and you don't make any attempt at all. That's the only time that you're not winning. And so if we're able to get into that mindset that we're constantly winning as long as we're putting the work in and we're doing everything that it takes to accomplish and to be able to navigate the lane that's in front of us, that right there is how we're able to continue that stability and continue that trajectory of getting to where we want to get to and defining everything as an ultimate win in our career pathways.
Excellent. I know if you have this show, when your show comes online or is
Yes, when?
available, I'll
Yes,
be there watching you. And I'm sure
speaking to
many in
existence.
Black in Physiology will be there, and our allies and supporters and community as well. Well,
Appreciate that.
Maynard, this has been excellent. It's been great. Tell the audience how they can follow you or to view your content.
Yes. Shout out to y'all. Can find me on social media. I'm on pretty much all platforms at this point. Instagram is kind of my bread and butter. That's kind of where I like doing a lot of content. But you can see me on TikTok, YouTube at HipHop Science Show, Twitter, X now, Threads, all the good stuff. And then also my website, hiphopscienceshow.com. I do a lot of educational outreach and different opportunities, and the medical fields has always been an area that I think is so important, and I'm always trying to go to bat for, of getting more representation in those fields. And so for anyone, for all the physiologists that are out there, whether you work with educators or work with students, if you're ever looking for speakers, if you're ever looking for opportunities to do workshops, ways to be able to engage our next generation or even our young working professionals, people that are already in these fields, to be able to inspire and be able to showcase a lot of the different things that we talked about, definitely feel free to reach out to me, because that is what I do. That's kind of my area of expertise, is being able to communicate science and hopefully inspire and spark curiosity in those across the world about the STEM fields and opportunities in that. And so you can find me at hiphopscienceshow.com and reach out to me if you ever need any supports or looking for someone to be able to support who you're working with as well.
Well, on behalf of Black in Physiology Incorporated, I want to thank you immensely for this very enlightening, encouraging discussion about how we could have wins in our particular field.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. It's my
again,
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.